Hello there everybody, this is Remeron. I recently got a new microphone so I can finally make videos that are not utter crap. Though my videos are usually utter crap, just deal with it, I'm sorry. Anyways, yeah, so this is my desktop. This is what a desktop of a monitor looks like. It just has all this garbage on it that I never use. I have to clean it every few months. Thankfully I have a really big desktop because my monitor is a plenty resolution. It's like, let's see, it's like 2560 by 1080. Which is really weird. It's like a double monitor in one. But yeah, so also the side effect of that is that in this video, on the tops and the bottoms of the screen, there's probably going to be black bars. I'm sorry about that. There's nothing I can really do about that. It's just my monitor. But yeah, so now we are going to start working on the topic of this video instead of just digressing for infinity. We are going to make something that looks like this. So this video, like it says in the title, is actually for Mount & Blade Bannerlord modding. Even though Mount & Blade Bannerlord is not released yet, I can still talk a little bit about some things that you can do in the engine based on what we've been told so far. And one of the things we've been told we can do is we can make a terrain map for a scene using a height map. And height maps look like this. They're basically black and white images with various shades of gray, not 50 shades of gray, but a lot more than that. And the whiter each pixel is, the higher it is on the height map. And this is a very bad height map because if you look towards the coastlines, there's a really sharp drop down to the water, so there's actually going to be cliffs on the coast if this was used to make a map. But this is just a general example. As you can see, if you look at the mountains, those are very well done because if you look at them, they have very nice details. If you zoom in, you can see, it gets pixelated as you zoom in, of course, but you can see that the mountains are very detailed. It even has like little rivers on the edge, so it looks kind of crusty, like an earth crust. I'm going to show you how to do this sort of thing, so you can make really superb height maps. So you can start preparing for Mount & Blade Bannerlord, and you can prepare to make like persistent world maps for Bannerlord and stuff. Because I know there's going to be a persistent world mod for Mount & Blade Bannerlord, by the way. The rumors are that Born is working on it, the guy who made Persistent World, and if he does, then well, it's gonna be awesome because there can be 200 square kilometer maps in Mount & Blade Bannerlord, and those maps will be massive. So that means we can, like a single scene you walk around in, not like a campaign map, like the scene. So that means we'll basically be able to have massive persistent world maps. And judging by how popular Bannerlord is going to be, there probably is going to be thousands of players on a single map. Of course, it depends on what the player cap is. It's probably going to be about 1,000. Who knows? I hope it is. So yeah, that's cool, right? So massive persistent world mod with a lot better graphics and everything. This is going to be amazing. It's going to probably be better than Skyrim was. It's more popular, I think. But anyways, back on topic, we're going to make a map like this. So we're going to make the map be a square, and it's going to be 2048 pixels by 2048 pixels. Now the thing is, I know nothing about what dimensions will be usable for Bannerlord. I don't even know if rectangles will be possible. I'm guessing they won't be. I'm guessing that the sizes of the maps will have to be factors of 2. So either 1024, 2048, or 4096. Maybe 8192, or maybe smaller things like 512, 128, 256. But I generally don't think that would be a good idea to make a small height map unless you're making a really small map. Yeah, so we're going to make a height map that's about this size. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to customize the shape of the terrain. Then we are going to add mountains and other features. And then we are going to use a special program called Wilbur to add erosion features and stuff like that to the height map to make it look really fancy. So first thing you have to do is you have to go to Google, and I was looking up height map stuff. So go to Google and type in GIMP, and just go to GIMP, download and install GIMP 2.8. Now there's one issue with GIMP 2.8 that I need to address now. If you're watching this video and GIMP 2.9 is out, it says it's released, but it's not compiled. So if you want to actually use GIMP 2.9, you're going to have to compile it yourself. There's actually ways you can do that. You can go to Partha's place, and you can get a compiled version of GIMP from here, 2.9. but it's generally not a good idea because it's kind of buggy and it crashes a lot. So I would stick with GIMP 2.8 until 2.9 comes out. And the problem with 2.8 is that it doesn't have 16-bit image support. And what I mean by 16-bit images are the quality of the image. This is a 16-bit image. So the pixels have a greater variety of colors. The pixels can be more exact, which allows the terrain to be more smooth in the end. If you use an 8-bit image, which is what GIMP 2.8 supports, it is not the terrain is not going to be smooth enough. It's going to be very jagged because the pixels are not there's not enough color variation to support a great enough range of pixels to make it smooth. So you're going to need a 16-bit image, definitely. But the thing is, we can still use GIMP 2.8 and make an 8-bit image, and then later on we can convert it to a 16-bit very easily. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you got to do is go and get the latest version of GIMP. Get 2.9 if it's out by the time you're watching this video. But if you have 2.8, don't worry, we can do stuff with it still. And then I'm going to go and look for another program we need called Wilbur. Now Wilbur is actually kind of an abandonware. It's not really abandonware. They're still working on it. I guess not. It's kind of not widely known about piece of software, I guess. But boy, is it powerful, because it can do erosion better than Photoshop can. And Photoshop is a paid piece of software. Wilbur is absolutely free, and you can make features with Wilbur, such as these little erosion things on the edges of the Heightmap terrain. You can make the mountains look really cool. Wilbur is very, very useful. Of course, we're going to have to manually draw the mountains first, and that is going to be a little hard. It's going to require a technique known as cloning, but I'm going to go over that in a second. So anyways, this is going to be a very long video, by the way, because I'm doing a lot of stuff, aren't I? But that's okay. So we're going to go into GIMP. So after you install GIMP, just go into GIMP. It takes a while to open the first time, so I'm going to drink some water while it's loading. Look at that, it's ready. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to drag this up here. And I'm going to go File, New. And we want a 2048 by 2048 height map. So what we do is just go 2048. And that's 2408. I want 2048. And I need to fix that because I'm stupid. And just type. Okay, click OK. So we made a 2048 by 2048 image just like that. Of course, first off, it's entirely white. And we want the height map to go black being the lowest height and white being the highest height. That's just typically how height maps work. So we're going to change this from white to black simply by grabbing the fill tool. And black is the default color selected, so we just left click and it fills it all with black. So now we have the base of our height map. And this is on a layer called background. So GIMP has what are called layers. I can create a second layer. I can go here, create new layer. I can make this layer be white and see as white, but I can drag it below the black layer. Now it's covered up by the black. So they're basically just different canvases that you can put on top of each other. I can make the opacity of the white layer be lower, and it's going to look kind of gray because the white's going to be mixing with the black below it. See? Yeah, so we're going to use layers to our advantage to help us make this map so that we can have different canvases to draw on, so we can have everything separate from each other. It'll make it a lot easier. So the first thing we're going to do is make the terrain shape. So we're going to actually use this layer, but when we press the delete key, it's going to erase everything in the layer. So make sure you have the layer selected and you press delete. And if you click this little eyeball next to it, it's going to make the layer appear and disappear. So if we get rid of the black layer, all that's left is transparency, which is shown by a checkerboard. Give me a second. Good water. Okay. So I'm going to show the black though, because I want to see that. And make sure you have this layer selected so that you're editing this layer. And we're going to draw some shapes for our land masses. So just think about the general shape of the land you want to make. You might want to fill up the edges of the map with land and have like a terrain border. You can do that, but I'm going to make an island map. So I'm going to grab the free select tool. And then all you have to do is just draw the shape of the map you want to make. I'll make sure it's recording. Yes, it is. So you just draw the shape of the map you want to make, and I'm making islands, so I'm going to draw shapes of land masses. I'm just going to go kind of around. Here, I'm going to make like a big line. Well, this is going to be kind of a silly looking map, but just for example purposes, so I'm not going to put too much detail in it. So you can put all the detail you want though. Okay, so I did that, and then you can hold down the shift key, and then you can make more shapes, and it's just going to add it to the selection, so it'll keep your previous shape. If you don't hold down the shift key, it will get rid of your previous shape. So we can just do this and draw more shapes for islands, you know. This is kind of a weird archipelago of islands. I think I pronounced that right, archipelago. I don't know if I did. You can correct me in the comments, I don't care. So I'm going to make these nice little islands. Okay. So I made nice island shapes. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make these islands look more islandy, because these shapes are, let's be real here, these shapes are very smooth, and islands in real life are very jagged looking. They have random outcroppings and stuff. I could have drawn that by hand. That would have taken a long time. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go to select, I'm going to go to distort, and then I'm going to click OK. And what that does, you can mess around with these settings. What it does is it distorts the selection a little bit. So if I zoom in now, you can see the edges of this selection are now very bumpy and random, and it looks a lot more like a shape of a landmass. You can also see there are little lakes on the edge too. That's kind of grains that appear on the edge base because of the distortion effect. You can get rid of those manually by just selecting the oval tool, the ellipse tool, then hold down the shift key to add to the selection, and then you just cover up the holes. So I'm going to go here and I'm just going to cover up that hole, and then yeah, now I can go back to this tool and you can see it's gone. But I'm not going to worry about any of the others, so they're fine. So these are basic islands, and I use the distortion tool to make the edges look very nice. But there's a problem here. We want to fill these with white, so make sure you have the top layer selected. We're going to grab the fill tool. We're going to click this arrow so the black and the white swap. So now we're drawing with white. And then we're going to click here. And there's a problem that arises. If we zoom in, you can see the edges of this are not quite sharp. We want the black and white to be perfect. We want the water to be perfectly black and the land to be perfectly white. But as you can see, what GIMP does by default when you make a selection is it actually feathers the edge of it a little bit, so that it kind of transitions from the filled to the not filled. I can just click here a few times and it will fill it up eventually. But as you can see, it still has feather edges, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to undo all that. I can't undo that far because I did it too many times. So I'm just going to, oh boy. Yeah, I'm just going to select none. Actually, I'm going to delete this layer, and I'm going to make a new layer that's transparent, and there we go. So now it's back to the way it was before, and I can have, yeah. So I'm drawing on this layer, and I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go layer. No, I'm going to go select, and I'm going to go sharpen. Now when you sharpen a selection, it means it gets rid of the feathering on the edges. So now when I click, it's going to be completely sharp, and that is how I want it to be. So it's a lot of pixels here, but this is the basic shape of my height map. There we go. You can use changes to the shape of your islands now. You can do anything you want. Just make sure that the colors where the landmass is are perfectly white, and the color of where the landmass is not is perfectly transparent, so the black layer underneath will show. Alright, so that's how you make your basic landmass shapes. Now that we have this landmass, all we have to do is select the layer where it's on, grab the color select tool, which is right here. We can click right here, and now we have selected the entirety of our landmass, just like that. So we're going to get rid of this layer. We're going to make it invisible by clicking the eyeball next to it. However, we're still going to keep this layer. So if later on, if we make a mistake and we want to go back to the landmass, we want to reselect the shape of the landmass, we can just go back to this layer, we can grab it, and then we can make it invisible again. So we're just keeping this layer for utility reasons. It's not actually going to be drawn onto the final height map, because a pure white height map would just look very ugly. So now that we have this shape, next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a height map image, and we're going to use this image to paint onto this and make like mountain shapes and stuff. So I'm going to go to, I think this is the height map image I grabbed. Yeah, so I grabbed this image from Google. I will have a link to this in the description. But this is a very nice height map. As you can see, it has like mountainous shapes and it has rivers and stuff, and it's very pretty if you look at it. But the reason we're using this is because because if we use these shapes from this image to draw our height map, it's going to look very realistic. Yeah, we're not going to use this part of the image because that's kind of bad, but we're going to use this part because look at this huge chunk of just mountains and stuff, and that will make the terrain look very pretty. Because it'll make it look, because what you really want for a height map is smooth transitions. You don't want to have you don't want your height map to look like this. This is bad. This is bad because this would be 0 height and this would be maximum height. So it would have a really sharp cliff between these two colors. You want the colors to transition very smoothly between each other, or else you're gonna have too sharp of cliffs and your height map's not gonna look nice. So I'm gonna go to my desktop and I'm gonna right click on here and I'm gonna go open with, or send to. I'm gonna go open with, and I'm gonna go choose another app because it's not here for some reason. That's really annoying. And I'm gonna find GIMP. Where's GIMP? Right here. I can click OK. So once you open the second window of GIMP, it doesn't have to take that long to load because the GIMP is already loaded. It just has to load the new image. So this is the benefit of having this big monitor, because I can have two things on each side and it's very easy to use. Anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a new tool called the clone tool, which is right here. And I'm just going to change the brush a little bit. I want the brush to be like this one, so it has very smooth. Actually, no, I'm going to use a hard brush. I'm going to make the sides be very big. If you don't see this tool window, if it looks like this, double click on the clone tool and the tool window will come up. So then you can edit the stuff for the tool. So after you have this clone tool, I want you to go to the image right here. It's actually, and hold down Control and then left click. And then it creates like a little circle right there. And then when you go over to this image and you paint, it's going to paint, it's going to pick up this image over here and it's going to paint it onto there. So I'm just going to go over here, grab some of that and paint it on, and grab this and paint it on. So I'm making the shape of my height map. It looks very nice. So since I selected the terrain, it's only going to paint within the selection. So it's not going to paint on the black. And actually, I did it wrong because I'm painting on my terrain layer. I want to leave this pure white, and then I'm going to make a new layer that's transparent, and then I'm going to paint the map onto there. That's bad. I don't want those rivers to show up in this. I'm just going to kind of go like this. I could try making noise. I could try generating random noise and making it look like mountains. But generally, the best way to make realistic looking mountains is to actually use a picture of mountains, because that just gives you the best result every single time. There we go. We got a nice height map going here. That'll work. Those are my islands. Now, this looks very nice for a height map. However, it still has issues with it. If I zoom in, I'm going to deselect now. Deselect everything. Select none. I'm going to minimize this and get rid of it. You might want to keep that open though, because you might want to use it later. But if you zoom in, you can see the transition between the coastline and the shoreline is still very sharp. So there's going to be very sharp cliffs on the coast all the way around, and that would be very annoying. You know, you can't really have a coastal city or something or anything on your map, because it's just going to be a very sharp cliff there. You have to smooth it out, but I mean, to make it easier for ourselves, we're just going to smooth it out ahead of time. Oh yeah, and also the cloning tool, you might see little artifacts like this. If you see something like that, reopen your cloning image. You can grab somewhere, and you can put your brush down to this brush to hardness 0.25. Lower the bleed opacity up, and just paint over this. Make sure you have your terrain selected. So I'm going to grab this layer so you can see it, and I'm going to select the white, and then get rid of it again. And I'm going to grab the clone tool and click here, and then I'm just going to kind of paint above this. Wait, I don't want to do it on this layer. There we go. I want to do it on this layer. So make sure you have the layer selected you want to paint on. And I'm going to do this. So if I use if I use hardness 2.5 brush, 0.25 brush, it makes the edges soft, so I can actually have, they kind of blend together better, and it looks nicer. So you can do that if you want, or you can use a hard brush like I did. That was kind of a bad idea, actually. Use a soft brush. I'm sorry about that. Anyways, I'm going to go back to here. This video is probably going to be replaced once I get more information on Bannerlord modding, making Heightmaps and stuff. So I'm not really going to worry about editing this. This is just an introduction video. Anyways, so as you can see, there's the transition between this and this is very sharp still. So there's a few tricks you can do. One of the tricks you can do is you can grab this tool. You can select the white. No, make sure you have this layer selected, and then select the white. Because if I had this layer selected, even though it's not visible, I was actually trying to select a color in this noise right here. See, and that looks kind of funny. It's outlining the the jaggedness and all that, but that's not what I want. So I want to select it from this layer. So I select just all this white. That's why I have this layer still, so I can select all this rain really quickly. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to move this down to the bottom. And this new layer is transparent at first, but I'm going to grab the gradient tool. And using the gradient, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to select FG to transparent, and I'm going to make FG be black. Then I'm going to go to the shape, and I'm going to go shaped dimpled. Now, depending on the power of your computer and how big your map is, this is going to take a long time to calculate. But you want to make sure that you have it like shaped dimpled. You have FG is transparent. The black is on this side. So you can click this arrow and you can swap the way the gradient goes. But I want the black to be on the left and the transparency on the right. And then just click in the center of one of these shapes, and then you click outward. Make sure you have the new transparent layer selected over here. And then, as you can see, it's going to do a lot of hard work because it's blending black to transparent through all the shapes. So I'm just going to wait for it to finish. It's going to take a long time. There we go. And I think it did it backwards. It did. It put black in the center and transparent on the edges. So if you see that, what you do is you just click this arrow and it swaps the direction that the gradient goes. And then of course you go Control Z and it undoes the gradient. So I'm going to go here and go to the edge. I probably should have mentioned that you do Control Z. Most people will probably know that already. And when I redo this video, I will explain Control Z a lot better. Yeah. So I'm going to blend this shape a little bit with the gradient. Alright, that's perfect. However, as you can see, it looks very dark. It's a little bit too dark. So I'm going to grab right here the opacity of this layer, and I'm going to lower it. So when I lower the opacity, there's a little bit of stuff outside of it. I'll fix that. But when I lower the opacity, it makes it so it's less, makes it this layer more transparent. See, if I just show you this one layer, this is just the black gradients I made. If I grab the opacity and lower it, it's going to make it more transparent. That's all it's doing. So I'm going to, click that. I'm going to grab right here. I'm going to lower this a little bit until it looks a little nicer. It looks better. So that's a basic terrain height map. Of course, it's gonna look kind of funny because this height map goes higher the closer to the center of the island you get. And that's okay, but that might not be what you want to do. You might want to have like mountains on the edge or something, or you might want to have different effects like that. So what you can do is you can darken this layer a little bit. No, lighten this layer a little bit, I mean. Make it kind of like this. That'll be fine. And then you can go create a new layer. Remember to make new layers when you're doing your things, so you keep everything separate, so you can easily, get rid of them to see how it looks like without it and stuff. Yeah. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to grab the airbrush tool, and I'm just going to make sure my brush is 0.25. The opacity, I'm going to lower it a little bit to about 0.557. That's pretty good. And I'm just going to paint some black in the center of the island with this brush. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it on this layer. This is a crummy video, I know, I'm sorry. But I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to fill in the center of this island with some black using the airbrush tool. And that's going to darken this so it doesn't quite have like a slope that goes to the center of the island. And then I can grab the eraser tool, and I can just erase the top part of this. And now it adds mountains on the top. Now that looks very bad because it's kind of sharp, the color transitions. So what I can do is I can lower the opacity of the eraser tool, and then I can do it, and it's going to look a lot less sharp. And of course I can lower the size, and I can do like the center and make like the center have a little more higher. And then I can lower the size even more. I can do the center of that. There we go. So that's a pretty basic height map. I mean, you can do all sorts of fancy tricks. This is just my way of doing it. But I think we're pretty much done with GIMP now. This looks very pretty. You can see like a little river going down here. That looks very nice. I'm actually going to erase a little bit more of this over here. I'm going to go select invert, so it selects the water instead, and then I'm going to go to this layer, and I'm going to press the delete key because I added some crap out here that I wanted to get rid of. Yeah, it got outside my selection. I want my landmasses to be stuck inside of the landmass, the white landmass thing right here. So if it goes outside of it, you just invert the selection and you press the delete key, and it'll delete everything outside of the selection. And then you go select invert, and then inverts it again so it reselects the landmasses, and you can do more edits to them. So that is basically how you do the stuff in GIMP. I'm going to add a little bit more up here, and then we're going to be done. A little bit. So this kind of slopes down towards the coast up here. Using the airbrush tool. Okay. That looks pretty good. Kind of a crappy map, but it gives you an idea of how to do it. And I'm going to go select none. And then make sure you have all the layers selected you want to use. Now if you see like little white things like that, that's just a rendering thing. It's not actually in the image, don't worry. Just little white dots if you saw those. I'm going to go File, I'm going to go Export As, and then you go to Desktop, or wherever you want to save it. I'm going to call this My Height Map Test. I'm going to export this. Make sure it's a PNG image, and then make sure the compression level is 9 or whatever, and yeah, everything default should be fine. Just click export. So now if you go to where you save it, there should be a new image. You can look at it. Not that, this. So there's my height map. So that's pretty good. So you use GIMP to do all that. Then you got to use Wilbur. So go ahead to this website, just follow the instructions, download Wilbur depending on what operating system you have, 64, 32. It only works on Windows, which is kind of annoying. But if you have Linux, you can just use an emulator or something. Anyways, I'm going to go into Wilbur. Wilbur1.exe is what it's called. And this is what Wilbur looks like. It's a very nice little program. You're probably not going to see this toolbar right here. I can get rid of that. So this is what you're going to see when you first open it. And just go File, Open. And then go to wherever you saved your image. And find the image of the height map that you made in GIMP. Go to My Height Map Test. This is what I called mine. So there it is. And now you can see, here's what the height map looks like in Wilbur. It kind of renders it a little differently. It looked pretty damn nice, doesn't it? You can kind of see the little mountains and the hills. It looks very pretty and very realistic because I used a real mountain texture as my base. So you might want to add a little more stuff to this. You could just use the height map as it is, but I'm going to add a little more detail. So I'm going to go to the selection tool. Right here, sorry, on the side, I'm going to click on this button, the wand, magic wand selection. And I'm just going to click here, and it's going to select all of the water. So just like GIMP, you can select things. There are no layers in Wilbur, but you can still select things and stuff like that, and edit everything within the selection. So I selected the water, but I want to select the land. So after I click on the water, I just go Select, Inverse. Now I selected all of the land. So now I can do edits and it'll only affect the land, it will not affect the water. And I can go here and grab the blur tool and I can just blur in things that I want to, make like smoother terrains. I can smudge things with the smudge tool. I'm gonna make this brush bigger so you can see it better. So you can smudge things in. It looks kind of ugly. I can grab this. I can make like little rocky areas. I do not recommend you use the rocky tool, this tool, because it is going to make your map have a lot of really tiny micro cliffs, and it's going to be very hard to navigate. So do not use that tool. Yeah, what you can do is you can go to the Filter tab. You can go Erosion, and then you can select all this stuff. You can also go to Fill. I recommend you do this. You don't have to if you don't want to, but you go to Fill Basins. Just leave it at -1. Click OK. And what it does is it fills in areas that are surrounded by land that like go in, and it allows you to have nice flat plateau areas on your map. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I generally do it because it's kind of nice to have flat areas. Of course, they look a little too flat, so we can add more detail. We can go Filter, we can go Erosion, and then we can go Erosion Cycle, or Slice Slow, Precipitation Based. I'm sorry. I usually do Precipitation Based because you can say the number of passes you want to do. I'm going to do 5 passes, and then you just click OK, and it erodes the surface 5 times. It's kind of slow. And that would be my dog. I'm sorry. Give me one moment. She's barking like a nut. So, anyways, yeah. So it kind of smoothed everything out a little more. If you look towards the edges of the island, if I grab this magnifying glass so I can zoom in, you can see the edges have like nice little marks on them because it's like rivers and stuff. They're beginning to form. If I eroded this more times, it would be a lot more rivers and stuff. I'm going to undo that erosion though. I'm going to show you what the other erosion tools do. If I go Filter, Erosion, and then I go Incise Flow, this actually has a preview, so I can see it as I'm editing the settings on it. I can see how it changes, how it looks. It's kind of laggy sometimes to load. But yeah, see, this actually adds little rivers on your map. So it adds little dips for rivers. You can change the amount. If I make it really high and I click preview, to make the rivers a little bigger. If I go like 100, it's going to look ridiculous. Yeah, there's a ridiculous amount of rivers on this map. So I don't recommend you do that. But if you want to make rivers really fast, that's a good way to do it. And it'll just randomly generate some rivers based on the heights. And click cancel. And then of course you can use erosion cycle, which just kind of generally erodes things. It actually fills basins as well in the middle of the cycle, and it kind of lags out sometimes. So you gotta wait for it. It just means it's calculating something in the background, so you just gotta wait for the finish, and then it'll be fine. Yeah, as you can see, the erosion cycle also creates rivers too. So that's pretty cool. Of course, the erosion cycle rivers don't go all the way down the water level, which might not be best for Bannerlord maps, because it doesn't look like you can make actual rivers that aren't at water level. Yeah, so you can do all sorts of fancy effects like that to your map using Wilbur. So I'm just gonna finish up this map and make it really nice looking at the end of this video, and then I'm gonna be done. So yeah, I'm gonna go filter. Let's go like I'm gonna go feather my selection so that the selection goes out of the edges of the continents a little bit. I'm gonna feather it by about 3. I recommend actually you do it by 1. 1 is good. Feather the selection by 1. So it's feathering out by 1 pixel. You can barely see it. But the reason I'm doing that is so that, because if you look, if I just go select, deselect, you can see the edges of the continent are actually very sharp still. You can see a little cliffs. So I'm actually going to get rid of those. I'm going to go filter. After I feather it out a little bit, I'm going to go filter, erosion, precipitation base, and then I'm just going to go like 10 times and click OK. And wait for it to do its magic. Wilbur is a very useful piece of software, as you can tell, for making height maps. Before I found Wilbur, my height maps did not look that good, but now they look spectacular. It's a wonderful software. It's completely free. You can donate if you want to support them. You don't have to. So I'm going to wait for this to finish, and I'll see what the result looks like. If I like it or not, it depends on how it looks. I do like all these little details, but actually this looks better. This looks like a better height map. So it might have lost some of its detail, but it's a lot smoother, so it has a lot less cliffs and stuff. Yeah. Maybe that's not good. I'm going to undo that. I really like the shape of this terrain. It looks really pretty. So I don't want to smooth that out. I'm going to deselect this. I'm going to grab the blur tool, and I'm just going to blur the edges. You just go around, just kind of click around. It's going to have a cliff on the edge, but it'll also have like a bunch of sand down here, which will be kind of pretty looking. Yeah, you can just tinker with this. I'm not really an expert on it, to be honest, but I hope this helps you kind of figure out how to do it. I can't control Z all the way back. It doesn't go back that far. Okay. I can just go. I actually don't like how that looks, but I'm just gonna kind of tinker with this a little more. Using Wilbur, and you can go back to GIMP. You can mess around with it. You can do whatever. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna stop tinkering with this because it's gonna take me too long to make this look how I want it to. It's gonna take a lot of work. So I'm gonna reopen my Heightmap test. And the main reason you want to use Wilbur, you don't even have to use any of the filters if you don't want to. If you like it like this, because I actually kind of like it. Besides the cliff edges being too sharp, I like this detail it has. You can go. What am I thinking? Oh yeah, you can go File, Save As, and then just go to the location where you saved it and click on it. This is the main reason you want to use Wilbur, because you click Save, you click Yes, you replace it, and then it says this, output is 16-bit. So there we go. That, all we have to do is click Yes, and now it's a 16-bit texture, so it has more detail. However, it doesn't have more detail because the pixels are still acting like they're 8-bit. Even though there's 16-bit space for the pixels to move through, it's still acting like it's 8-bit because they haven't moved at all. The values haven't moved. They're still the same. So we can go filter, erosion. So we actually do have to do at least one blend, or else it's still going to be an 8-bit texture. So we have to go to our selection tool. There we go, select inverse. If you have like lakes in the middle of your landmass, by the way, hold down Control and click on those lakes. I mean, hold down Shift and click on those lakes, and that's how you select multiple things. Anyway, so you select inverse, and then we're going to go select, we're going to go filter, we're going to go fill, erosion, precipitation base, and we're just going to do 1 because I really like how this map looks. That looks fine. It looks okay. I mean, kind of got rid of some of that detail, but it's fine. So now that we got that, I'm just going to go File, Save As, my Heightmap test.png, yes, yes. So now if we go and look at my Heightmap test.png, it's a 16-bit image. It has all the Wilbur effects, which I didn't really add any because I liked it how it was, but you can add Wilbur effects if you want to. And yeah, it's exactly how I envisioned it looking. Now, of course, you're gonna have to look at it in game to see if it's how you want. And maybe the color changes might still be too sharp. Maybe something you don't like in it. I don't know. It just depends. As for where water level is actually at, it doesn't really specify. It looks like, from what I've seen so far for Bannerlord modding, is that for water level for maps can be changed. You can change where it is. So don't worry about trying to make a certain height where the water starts, because you can just change that later on. So that is all for this video. This was Heightmaps, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Also, I hope this video was very helpful and you will begin your modding Bannerlord or whatever. Yeah, I'm going to replace this video, by the way, so don't worry that it's so bad. I just wanted to make something really fast. Thank you.